Hey traders, John Hall here. Glad to have you with me today. Before I get started, do not place a trade based on what you'll see in this video. You know that, right? Like, trading's never about one trade or getting it right. You don't have to be right to be rich. And there's no guarantees of making money in the markets, especially when you have no plan of attack in the markets every single time. Anyway, let's get straight into it. Guys, in this video, one thing I want to talk about is trading, and I want to talk to you about what's been going on right now on the stock market. Okay, so let's look at this at least very short term on the stock market. Actually, you know what? Let me do this here. Let me go look at the Dow Jones. Okay, and I'll look at the Dow Jones. I'm going to start looking at, I'll look at the big picture first, what the weekly chart is telling us, and then we can start to drill it down on what's been going on long term. Okay, so short term on that weekly chart, which means the last sort of year or so, what's been really going on through here? Really not much, is there? Really, we're just been having this sort of just sideways range through here, and we're just really in a sideways box through here, aren't we? We've got this support level down here, we've got this resistance level up here. We have some sort of mid resistance through here, don't we, where we are right now. See this here? So this is something that I learned from one of my LS mentors, is look at the weekly chart for what you call parameters. What are the parameters? The parameters are simply where those weekly charts have definitely respected support and or resistance levels in the markets. Now, why is that important? Because markets tend to jump from support to support or resistance to resistance, and once they break the other area, if it breaks a resistance level, then the next magnet it's likely to be attracted to is the next resistance level. So looking at this right now, what do we see? We actually see, let me delete this off the screen through here. Firstly, what do we see here on the Dow Jones? The Dow Jones actually had this from this low to high. It actually retraced 50 to 60% level, as you can see. All right, so as you can see here, it retraced what? It retraced 50 to 60% on this level through here. And what's actually happening right now on this candle? Very big green candle. Now we need one more day, don't we? But it's actually this whole level through here. And what is that level that I'm talking about? This whole level through here is a major support level, as you can see. It's actually come back down. It's holding this 50 to 60% level, which is very good sign, right? Now think about the Dow Jones as the top 30 stocks in America. So if they're showing a lot more strength than, say, the top 500 or the tech stocks, this could be a bit of a leading indicator, right? Like the top stocks could be saying, okay, the market's not as weak as we once thought. Makes sense? Because everyone does look at the Dow and the S&P. So right now, what are we seeing here? We're seeing a long-term support here, right, on the 50 to 60% level. Let me just remove that from the chart right now so we don't need to look at that. And we know where we are right now, right? So the very first thing I like to do is draw the parameters of these lines through here. And I also can see that potentially there's a support and resistance line going on through. Is there something going on through here? Yeah, there we go, through there. So I'm looking at this level through here, and I'm noticing that what's happening through here. There's also a bit of support through here. You see the market actually bounced through here, and now we're actually getting a collection of where the market's holding through here. So I won't use that trend line. But this long-term trend line, how did I get that? If I go back to my bit more of a longer-term view now on this chart, and remember, it's so important to just look at the chart, right, as in more of like a technical basis, and then flow with the charts. If the market's going to be bullish today, or bullish this week, but over the next few weeks it starts to get a more of a bearish tone, then flow with that. Don't fight it. Don't try to be right with the market. Just flow with it. So right now we can see that by looking at what I see here, right? We have this bottom through here, and see how we had this support through here? See that there? Now look at that there. See how it's actually found support? That's the reason why it found support through there. This big long-term trend line, and it's actually holding quite strong right now. So the Dow Jones on that overall chart is still creating higher lows and long-term support line where we are right now on the Dow Jones. So it's actually looking quite strong right now on looking at that chart. Makes sense? So that's what you call the parameters. That's what you call the long-term picture. And this is obviously, you know, what we're looking at right now. So the market's not in a complete bear market right now. This still could be rallying up here. You want to be very intelligent about what you think about the markets. Just follow along with what the market is telling you, okay? So let's actually go now, and so now we can see this big long-term view that we actually see. We see this big double top formation through here. Is this double top formation a complete double top before it breaks? Or if we start to break below the 24,000 level, then this double top is likely to be a top in the market. But until that happens, it's not a long-term top, okay? So let's go have now. What we're going to do now is I'm going to go over there. I'm going to share with you what's happening right now on a bit more of a short-term basis, and then we can see through there. So what are these trend lines here, right? This trend line through here is what? It is the weekly trend lines, isn't it? Weekly resistance up here, this weekly trend line through here, and this long-term trend line down through here. So what we can see here, we're actually getting a bit of strength, aren't we? We're actually getting a bit of strength where the market actually is starting to stair step down through here. See how we're just getting that stair stepping down? It was starting to stair step down, but now we actually came bit of like a small double bottom, so to speak, as you can see through here. Bit of a small double bottom, and then it broke back up to where this, remember this line through here is that, remember that weekly resistance? So that's what we're looking at there. If we go and have a look at, say, the 6-month view, we can then get a bit more of a technical view of what's really going on. And if I move this trend line down a little bit more, the reason why I'm doing that is because I want to find where is the relevant support and resistance levels. And relevant simply means where did it respect the most, right? Respected it there, respected it there, respected it there. We actually had a little bit of a bounce here, didn't we? We're actually at that level right now, aren't we? And so this market's actually come down, and now we're actually retracing a little bit right now. So if we start to break back above here, then we could ultimately continue and head back up to this trend line through here. Because remember, if I bring up, say, this chart here, which is like the 1-year view now of what the Dow Jones is telling us. Remember, this Dow Jones was in some sort of a channel through here. That was the channel through there. This is the long-term support and resistance levels through here, aren't we? And we can see we actually have, by looking at this chart now, I can see that this level through here, which is this level right here, let me bring up the value on this one. This sort of 25,600 level, 25,700 level. As you can see, right, it actually had a lot of resistance through there, and the market, see this high through here? That's where the market actually had a lot of problems in the past. So right now, when I'm looking at this chart, I can see by looking at the last 12 months, if I go back to my short-term picture for a minute, I can now see, okay, it's this level through here and this level through here where the market's likely to have a bit of problems. But if the market does start to push through these levels, then we're probably going to break up to the 26,500 and potentially even make a new high, because there's nothing really stopping it. There's no real support and resistance level through here. We come back down. Remember that long-term chart is still pushing up, and that's what's happening right now on the Dow Jones. So if we go have a look at the exact same thing on the S&P 500, what's the S&P 500 doing? Well, the first thing on the S&P 500, let's look at the short-term picture. What's the short-term picture? Short-term picture is what? It's actually had a lot more of a stronger pullback, hasn't it, compared to the Dow Jones. So we had this big run up through here, a nice vertical move up, then a nice vertical move down, and notice how we're just in this sideways pattern, aren't we? If we have a look through here, if I bring up that was the last low where the market respected there. And you had all these low points through here where the market had a lot of problems. So as you can see, this is where the market actually had a lot of problems, didn't it? Really, really, really had a lot of problems through here. Let me just delete this trend line off here for a minute, because we don't need that right now. Let me delete that off a minute. Now, what am I going to do? I'm going to look at where the markets had a lot of support and resistance levels. So I can actually see that through this level through here, which is roughly around the 28,000. Notice on this weekly chart, right? It actually had a lot of problems, didn't it? Broke back up. Once it actually broke below, look at actually then start finding a lot of resistance on this candle, and then we started to break back down. So right now we're holding this leg here really, really strong. If we have a bit more of a longer term view, if I draw my trend line from there to there, as you can see, right, look what actually happened. We found the support, very similar to the Dow Jones, didn't it? Found support, and it came right back down to that trend line through there. And then it's holding through there. So if I go have a look at my short-term daily chart right now, and let's go bring up, say, 1 year worth of data, what can we see here? Well, the Dow Jones is, the S&P is still quite weak, isn't it? Well, like we have a little bit more room to run to the upside, but it's still very, very weak. Notice this big, strong move, and notice we're not getting very strong buyers out of this here. We're not getting them racing out of the gates yet. So right now, we're seeing where there's resistance through here, and then once again, resistance through here. That's very similar to the Dow Jones, isn't it? Where there's a lot of resistance through there. If we do start to, if we do start to break back above the 2,800 level, then we're probably going to race back up to new here and then break up to all-time new highs. Is that going to happen? No one knows, but we're just going to follow along with what the market's telling us. And now moving on to the Nasdaq. the tech stocks, what is the tech stocks doing? Very similar to what the overall market is doing, right? What do we see here? We see this firstly, this long-term view, it's run right up. So it actually came right back down to this support level through here. If we go have a look at our short-term weekly chart, what do we see here? We see this level through here, aren't we? See this level all through here? Now, what is this level that we're looking at right now? This level right now is what? Where we had, as you can see, we had what? We had resistance through here. We had a lot of resistance through here, and then we had a lot of resistance. See how that's what you call relevant. It's relevant because it had multiple respects on that weekly line there. And then the market had a pullback. Now, if we go have a look at now the daily chart, what's the daily chart saying once again? Let's look at, say, a 12-month view. And as we can see, right, we're getting a little bit of a bounce, getting very, very, very strength on the downside, getting a little bit of a bounce. We have a massive gap here, by the way, that will be filled will be filled maybe shortly or maybe not. I don't know. Who knows? But what I do know is that if we don't close this gap here and we start to get break above, say, this resistance level here, which is that 7,500 level, that's a very, very, very strong bullish sign for the Nasdaq, and we're probably getting ready to race back up to new highs. So as you can see, with the whole indices, right, they're not that too far away from these major levels of support and or resistance in the markets on the Dow Jones. So that's what we're looking at there right now on the overall markets and how I view the markets. Remember, when you're looking at that weekly chart, you're looking at the weekly chart where the markets had major respect for different areas in the markets, and you want to use those as parameters. Remember, because what you're doing is when you're doing that, what are you doing? You're respecting the markets, because it's not us that move the markets, the big guys, and the big guys are saying there's a lot of support and resistance around this area. And you've got to be careful of that, right? Because you don't want to try to fight that. Too many times in the past when I've traded, if I've had a really good entry signal that's right against resistance level, I know more times than not that's going to fail. Makes sense? So this is a bit of a look on the upside right now. It would be very, very interesting to see what actually happens over the next couple of days. But there's a bit of a market update on the Dow Jones, S&P, and also Nasdaq. Before you go, make sure you grab the free Grab the Markets by the Balls training course. In this training course, you're going to learn the top 13 deadly mistakes, the success formula, charting boundaries, the PT method, the ultimate trading system, the blast off trading system, #1 in trading indicator, the $1 Million Trader money management, how successful traders approach the market, and so much more. Get this training course for free right now. Click on the very first link in the description to get this whole complete trading course to give you the edge on your side of trading this market. Do that right now, and I'll see you on the other side.